I think you changed dramatically, and I've written about it recently on HotelBlogs, is how you change your website on both brands.
Yeah.
And how you also incorporated all those voices from the Twitter account and the Facebook and YouTube. From this experience, what is the thing that you've learned using those tools that you didn't think about before?
When we relaunched the website, it was clear that we needed something that was a little different. It was also clear that we needed something that was based upon the content that people would like. I have to say we're only part way there with it. What you see in our current website is the makings of something a little more spectacular, but it's based upon data, and it's based upon very good data.
Yeah.
Ultimately, our content that is pulled in from this kind of magazine feel will be based upon your preferences. So say, for example, you're into cycling or you're into activities. Ultimately, your content will change to reflect the more active nature of what you are. We're a while away from that, but we've put our sockets in place to have lots of things like that. With that in mind, based upon we'd like to know more about you, and therefore we'll show things that are relevant to you, we also decided that we would engage those people who we don't know. A brand can't be so arrogant that they feel they're just going to rely upon their database forever. So actually we went out there, and the big thing I got to say is it's about content. It's about engaging content. As a brand person, I don't know amazing wine. I do know people who do, and they're in our hotels. I don't really know where to get the best smoked kippers from in Lancashire. I do now because I asked our chef, and I went to video it, and I put it on YouTube, and I put it on our blog.
So you get your employees to also participate in that conversation?
They have incredible knowledge.
Exactly.
You'd expect,
some of the discussion I had with Hotelier is they do have the knowledge. Now, how did you get those employees to be in this conversation? Was it hard to convince them to be on a video, be in front of a lot of people on YouTube?
We're all slightly conscious of being on video. I'll give you an example of how this whole new approach has come together. We launched a new cocktail menu, which is great, because it was based on our relationship with Chase Vodka, who is, believe it or not, the world's #1 vodka last year. And it was done by Mr. Tyrrell, who did the crisps, who suddenly decided that he wanted to create a vodka. And we like that attitude, that can-do attitude. So anyway, we were launching a whole new range of cocktails. Now we go down the usual collateral where there's a menu, there's a wine list, a cocktail list, and we go, that would be great if we just produced all these cocktails. But actually that wasn't enough, because that wasn't enough to create engaging content. So we have our links with Chase. So I went there to Chase and filmed a video interview with our master sommelier, Johnny Walker, who was at Chase and was doing a little chat about why this vodka's great to our head barman. That's great, that was on a line. I took the audio from that, which was essentially on YouTube, and put it on our iTunes account for our podcast. I then put that on our blog for Malmaison. So the video was on there. Later down the line, the podcast was also on there. That's great. Now, wait on, how are we going to engage the people more? Our head barman came up with great vodkas and vodka-based cocktails. We came up with some of the names, but we thought it would be really good as if we let our drinkers decide one of the names which we were struggling on. And I think the thing about social media is it's okay not to know everything, because actually even the experts don't know everything right now. So actually we thought, well, let's just make an open admission that we don't know what to call this cocktail. So we engaged our Facebook fans and said, question, we don't know what to call this. This is what's in it, and here's a few options of what we're thinking about. What do you reckon? And it was the first example of us properly engaging our audience. And they came back and said they want to call it the Toffee Shop. The cocktail in reality tasted a little bit like a Werther's Original, but we didn't feel we could call it that. So we did that. That was then posted on Facebook, obviously, because you want to know the result.
Yeah.
We talked about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for helping us.
Yeah.
It appeared on the blog, along with the recipe, just in case you wanted to make it yourself, along with a link to Chase Vodka, in case you wanted to order it. And curiously, it made its way back onto the collateral, the traditional approach. So then suddenly it was as chosen by our Facebook viewers. So actually, that was an example of a fully rounded approach.
That's what I was going to say. It's you really understood the dynamics of all those different tools and what can bring each of those tools.
It should
they
also,
all link together.
Absolutely linked together. And it should also be added that over a period of time, we then distributed those links onto the social bookmarks and onto Dig,
Yeah.
and onto Reddit,
Yeah.
and onto Delicious. And
But how did you find the resources to manage all of that? Because one of the things I always heard from as a feedback from hoteliers is they want to try Twitter at one time and then eventually got to Facebook and so on because they don't know everything. And you know, you've been using all these tools at the same time, or you employed somebody who's been dedicated to those tools?
Initially, it's exhausting. Initially, it's exhausting. I initially did.
So that's a warning.
That's a warning. I initially did all of the room interiors for Malmaison that are on the website, all of the kind of virtual 360 tours. As I've said before, the intention is there, and that's the most important thing to change perceptions within the marketing of a hotel. That the intention is there and the passion is there. What you tend to find is, and it's a worldwide adage, the more you know, the less you know about it. And suddenly what is initially, well, let's get involved in Twitter and let's get involved in Facebook becomes, actually, you're not fully involved because you're not looking at what people are saying about you. You're not involved in the community. You're not actually involved in a community subject matter that isn't just about you. Boo, boo, poor you, because we're not talking about you. You have to learn to let go of that brand.
Yeah.
You have to learn to engage in that community, and by association people will go, well, what nice guys they are at Hotel du Vin and Malmaison. So actually we found that the job became big. We have our consultants who will advise us on what we should do, but ultimately the day-to-day task we've had to employ people for. We've had to employ a couple of social media people to help us plan out our daily, our weekly campaigns. So at the beginning of every week we have, this week we're going to talk about boozy lunches. Ultimately it's linked to content that we can provide, but it has to be engaging. So you'll find on our blog we talk about the 80s boozy lunch, where it originally came from, big mobile phones. So we talk in an engaging, personal, and more importantly transparent manner about this subject. Now obviously it's going to contain images of our places where we do lunch, but ultimately it's about, wasn't it great back then when everyone had boozy lunches? Wouldn't it be great to have that again? Now who of us wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
So we have a kind of weekly plan of how we think we should go. Procedure is important when doing this, because if you suddenly decide that you're going to pull tasks out of the air and things to talk about, you'll be very lonely in the middle of the night doing that for 27 hotels. So first off, procedure is massively important. The next thing you need to do is, while you're running that procedure and you have that plan and you're linking into all other areas, is be part of the community and know that other people are talking about certain things that you need to be in on, and that could potentially lead to other things. An example of that is Batman. Last night, from my bedroom in Malmaison Reading, I discovered that Christopher Nolan, the director, actually had dinner at Bistro du Vin in Clerkenwell.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, wait on here, what's that about? Is this a bit hooky? Could this be something that's unusual? I looked into it and suddenly found that actually Christopher Nolan supposedly had dinner in Bistro du Vin because one of our food bloggers had actually talked about it.
Oh.
Go onto a comic book site only to find that the big outdoor lights are actually photographed next to our Bistro du Vin canopy. So the Dark Knight rises, and he rises next to Bistro du Vin. So suddenly we're on Twitter to talk about that, but we're also on about distributing that to the right circles of people who are interested in the Dark Knight,
Yeah.
and not necessarily about food.
Yeah. So you find a great talking point.
And then you go for it.
Yeah.
And are we getting it wrong in that sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it's too soon to say what will be the impact.
It's too soon.
Yeah.
But the most important thing I can say is that we are trying to engage.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Gary.
Yeah.
I would love to have a follow-up conversation, surely,
Okay.
in a few months' time to see how you guys are doing on those social networking tools.
Excellent.
Thank
Thanks
you
very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.